There's a place inside, you gotta let it shine, let it go. You don't need to hide. Soul talking. Soul talking.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Soul Talking, episode 5. How exciting is that? Episode 5 already. Wow. Well, everybody, today is a big interview in so many ways because over here is Matthew Bryan. Matt is known to so many of you, I'm sure. Matt is many things. He's a riding confidence coach. He's a Bowen therapist. He's an NLP practitioner. Matt's also an animal communicator and medium, just like me, and also a human medium, which is fantastic. And Matt's an ex-student. He's been on all of my animal communication courses, my advanced courses, my colour workshops, my mediumship courses. Oh, I'm exhausted just talking about it, Matt. I can't wait to talk to you. On top of all of this, Matt still has time to have 2 children. He shares his home with me. So, I mean, that's hard work in itself, along with the kids. And we've got our cat, Eva, and we've got our horses. Matt has just recently set up Zen Holistics, and this is where I'm talking to him from today, in Zen Holistics. And hi, Matt, and welcome. I'm exhausted just talking about all the things that you do. Matt, so for everybody at home, can you tell us a little bit about your life?
So my childhood, from my family perspective, was really, really cool. My mum and dad were great, but my experiences of friendships and how things were at school were not so cool.
What happened at school?
Generally singled out for no real reason. I appeared to be the target, the one to have the mickey taken out of, or name calling, and sort of, when they go, everybody stand, we're going to pick teams. I was always the last one there, thinking, oh, I don't want to be here. Yeah, definitely, like doing sports and stuff like that was not something I was comfortable with. I didn't like being in the changing rooms around everybody. It was like a heightened opportunity to take Mickey or pull me down. And I was generally quite sort of quiet and keep myself to myself, and I wouldn't react or respond. So I think that kind of made me an even bigger target.
Really? Because they say that kids they say in those situations, kids kind of move on if you don't react, don't they? I mean, we're taught, even from having our own children, don't react.
Absolutely.
They'll move on.
Yeah, just ignore them. And actually,
but that didn't happen.
It didn't happen, and I don't necessarily agree with just ignore. I do agree with, don't go in there causing more trouble yourself, and getting all reactive. But when these things are still being said, you still feel it, and they don't. If you don't have any form of response, you kind of just say, well, I'm a wet lettuce sat here, come and beat me, which was kind of, I think, what I did for many years. So it was the general being picked on and bullied and stuff until I went to secondary school, and that's when they sort of they lifted the game, if you like.
You didn't really feel that you fitted in. You didn't really want to fit in.
No, I absolutely, every single day that I was at school, I hated every possible waking moment. From the minute I opened my eyes.
So sad. It's so sad to hear that. It's so sad for so many kids that feel like that, and so many people watching this that are have been through that themselves. Do you find through your work that people that have had difficult childhoods or have been bullied at school tend to gravitate towards the animals?
Absolutely, 1,000,000%. For me, it was that acceptance, that being able to be who I was without
acceptance,
and just like, it was like being welcomed.
Yeah.
without having to say who I was, what I thought about this, what I thought about that. It was just all encompassing love, no matter what. No matter what sort of day I had, how I felt about something, what I was wearing. We never judged, never looked at for what you're wearing, whether your hair was,
No, they don't. They don't judge us like you say, do they? So you felt at one with them. You felt that you weren't judged. You felt the friendship, the partnerships.
It was like, so I didn't find horses until I was 13, and I stumbled across them one day with a girl at school who just randomly said, "Do you want to come riding the weekend?" It's like,
Right.
all right, I'll give it a whirl. Don't think I'd even told my mum and dad. I just went and got.
She'll be watching this. Your mother will.
Yeah,
She'll
she
be
will.
like, "You never told me. You never told me." Now I found out.
I was put on a really lovely pony called Dalmain, who was a fell pony, and he was probably only about 14 hands, but I felt like he was a giant, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's a long way up." And this lady got on a bike and just didn't speak, just led me round the village while sitting on a bike, and I hung on for grim death. And it was like I'd suddenly come alive. I wasn't existing anymore. I had a purpose, a reason to get on and do. And what I did from that moment was I cycled from the stables where we were living in Milton Keynes to the newsagents, asked if I could have a paper round, which they gave me. And then I cycled home and said, "Mum, I've started going for riding lessons, but I've got a job to pay for it."
Yeah.
And my lessons were £6 a week, and I earned £7.20 doing my paper round. And that was
It was a long time ago. It was a long time ago, Matt. What can we say? The thing there that stands out to me, and I'm sure to everybody else watching is that it certainly wasn't handed to you on a plate. You went out there from your own passion to make that happen. This is your drive to do this, to be with the animals, work with the animals. Well, what's eventually become you working with the animals.
It was from that moment I knew I didn't have any understanding of the horse industry or that there was jobs or how it was, but I knew that I couldn't wait to get out of school and be around horses all the time. That was it, and that's what I did.
Talk to us, Matt, about a special animal in your life. I mean, I know you've had lots, but back there as a kid, I mean, I know you enough to know that there's a few there.
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm torn between Holly, my dog, and Bouncer, my horse.
Yeah, talk about Bouncer.
Okay. Bouncer. Well, I had Holly at the same time. So,
talk about them both.
So I had them both. Bouncer was, so I was 17 and I'd moved to Banbury and I was working in an equestrian centre down there, helping my friend Julie with her horse at the livery yard. Came across Bouncer, who had been in 8 homes in the previous 6 months.
Gosh.
No one could catch him. He was lame most of the time. But I started to ride him for her, and obviously when he was sound, and he would bolt religiously every single day, and he would go flat out, full pout, straight across main roads, fields, mow through people, over people. I don't know how I never came off him and how we didn't get hit by a car, but I kept going. I kept going. And eventually the lady wanted rid of him. So I gave her £100 for him. And he was 17, 18 at that point. And I just kept going. And I had him for nearly 10 years. And he was the most, it makes me feel very emotional. He's the most fabulous horse. He was the most unconventional, do the opposite to whatever you thought you wanted to do, but the most by my side friend that I'd had in years. You couldn't, like, he taught me so much. He taught me how to be in the moment and quiet with a horse, because if I wasn't, I was going to pay the price.
Bless him. He sounds really, really lovely, and lots of special moments there.
Yeah, he was just great fun. Like, and he showed me about being consistent and not giving up. He showed me about unconditional love, but also I showed him unconditional love because he hadn't had that and I was never giving up on it. But I mean, we've been through some ups and downs. He ended up with getting really severe choke and ended up in Potters Bar Hospital. He snapped both his hind suspensory, and I nursed him back from that. But there was a very special. I mean, I've spoken with you about Bouncer a few times, but wow, it feels very emotional today. It's really sort of making.
It can do that, can't it? When we've got time to actually reminisce and look back, we realise how powerful those relationships really were. Your words are that horses literally changed your life and gave you a reason to live. Now, that's a massive statement to make.
That's how I
Can
feel.
you explain that?
I didn't feel as a teenager that that I was worthy of being on the planet, because I seemed to be against everything. So I was brought up in a Christian household, and we were going to church and stuff. And I got to sort of 14, I was like, there's so much contradiction in this place. And
Religion can feel contradictive at times.
I was like, right, that doesn't work for me. I don't want to be around that. It felt so controlled. It didn't feel like I could be me. I still hadn't worked out at this point what was going on underneath all of that. I was like, that isn't right for me. I didn't really like family gatherings. I didn't like being around when all the family got together.
It's all those kisses you've got to give everybody that you don't even know. Here's your Auntie Enid. Here's your Uncle Tom.
Well, there was some of the family members I just connected with, and just like, I got them, they got me, and it was easy.
Yeah.
But with the others, it wasn't, and it felt like a pretense. I was like, oh, I don't want to be here. The only place I really felt like I could be me was around the horses. And even that was fraught with its own issues on the yards, because obviously then you've got all the other horsey folk that also feel rubbish about themselves. So some of them are then taking it out on other people and trying to make themselves feel better by dissing what you're doing.
Another massive moment for you was working out inside who you were, wasn't it? Coming out as gay to my friends and family. You know, there's something that had been festering inside you for a long time. I mean, I get it, but other people, some people watching this won't even probably understand that. It is a big thing at times, isn't it?
I think generally it was a bigger thing for me than it was the people I shared that with.
Right.
And
yeah.
Like my closest friends.
Yeah. They already knew.
Like we didn't know. And I was like, well, I didn't. And obviously 20, 30, 25 years ago, it still wasn't, it was only just starting to become more acceptable. And actually the horse industry was a world where you could be accepted, safely accepted, more so than, you know, working uptown or whatever. At the time, I remember it being really massive for me, a real big deal for me. And so, yeah, that was, and it was like the penny dropped. Oh, that's why I'm so different about this. And oh, that's why that feels different about that. And I get it. And then because alongside that, I always wanted to be a dad, always wanted to have the normal, quote, normal, married, children, socially acceptable. I was still fighting that along with this, what felt really comfortable and easy.
I guess you needed time. You needed time to find out who you were. That whole thing about having children. I was going to say you managed to have children. that you had such two lovely children, which is you achieved this.
Yeah.
How wonderful.
It kind of feels like I live a parallel world with myself.
Does it?
Yeah, because on one hand I'm a dad. And so I've got, as I say, Grace and Bailey, and Grace is nearly 16, and turned into a young lady going off on her own path.
Certainly a young woman now.
Yeah, and then obviously Bailey's only 10, so we've still got There's a lot going on there. So on one hand, I'm a dad, and so obviously when we've got the kids with us, I'm dad, you're stepdad, and we do the family thing with the kids. And then when they're not around, I feel like I've got this whole other life where obviously I'm married to yourself, and we have our life where we worry about our animals and we do stuff with our dogs and horses.
It's a shame it's not. It feels so separated for you, but I guess that's part of being two parents but not together.
It is what it is, and when I'm needed, I'll be called upon, and if I'm not needed, then they're great, and then that's fantastic, and that's perfect.
That's
And
part
so
of being a
they're
parent,
important.
isn't it? You're there. You're there when you need it. You're there. You're there. You're there when you need it, and the kids are absolutely amazing. Now you got older, Matt, and
Yeah.
then you took. I mean, you got a little bit older, and what you know, part of your bio is that you ended up having a really awful situation, breaking your back. That must have been horrendous. That was in a riding accident.
Hmm.
That's just like, wow.
Well,
I mean, we won't ask you what the pain was like because it was probably very painful, but
all I can say is morphine for me was amazing.
uh,
Yeah, it was really cool.
uh,
Um, it was very much, let's face it, the universe tells us, it shows us, and it gives us signs, and we ignore
yeah.
them. And eventually, if we ignore them for long enough, they give us a good slap on the back of the head. And
So
that
you got
basically,
signs. You got signs that you
I got
ignored.
absolutely plenty of them.
Like what?
Because the crux that came along, because I just knew that the universe was telling me to stop, and I couldn't figure out how. And it happened that I rode a client's horse that day who wasn't apparently a troubled or difficult horse. And I jumped on board so that they could watch me ride. And I ignored the first sign the horse gave me, which was she went tense. Wasn't generally a tense horse,
Right. So you ignored that.
but I ignored it because I was like, well, her owner's quite or less experienced than myself, and so if she's all right trotting and cantering around, I'll be fine. Like there's nothing for me
Then
to worry about with this.
then what happened?
And within about the next 2.5 minutes, I was on the floor with a broken back because she something. I feel like she probably had a problem in her spine, and she
Yeah.
shot forwards and panicked.
Yeah.
And went around the pool, bronking and bronking and bronking, and finished by, bless her, she went up vertical, couldn't stay there anymore. She went over backwards, so we went over together.
That must have been awful. That must have been a horrible, horrible experience. I mean, I've had riding accidents, but breaking your back, wow, that's really big, isn't it? And of course, at the same time, having young children, being married, having to get on, with work, regardless.
Well, the business went because my horses that I used to teach with at the time, I had some lovely dressage horses that I was competing and teaching with.
Right.
They all had to go. My staff had to go. All the visiting horses had
What
to go
a shame.
because I couldn't do it. I was
all in that moment.
So I was. I remember the moment I hit the floor. I remember hearing and feeling my back crack. I knew exactly what I'd done. I knew exactly, and I lay there, amongst other words, as everybody was running over. I lay there, and in my head, I said to the universe, "Okay, I hear you. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do what, but I hear you." And I think that was probably in a way, that was the start of the demise that has been my
evolution.
Yes, that's the
yeah. Yeah, because you were saying about this, you were saying that it's almost from losing everything that you had to build yourself up again is what took you on this journey to where you are today. Now, I guess that started with everything changing for you in your family life.
Yeah.
Breaking your back.
That was
losing your clients, your business.
Yeah.
Huge.
It was probably only a year after I broke my back that my marriage broke down, and I consequently ended up moving out and starting on my own. Which I started, of course, what did I do? Went, got a yard and a flat because I knew how to take horses on.
Of course.
So I went back to having horses into school and train, but didn't want to do it. But I didn't know how else I could earn the money to survive and be available to have my kids at the times they were coming to be with me. So I could work.
Juggling a lot. It's always a juggling process, isn't it? When you've got kids and family life and running your own business as well. That's a lot to take on, but you did it.
Yeah, I did it, and it was all groovy. It was all great. And then I just woke up one day and said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'll tell you the point at which probably it really, really hit home was it was only a few weeks after I moved into the new place on my own. That I had a call to say that my dad wasn't very well.
Right.
And my mum and dad had moved to Tenerife.
Right.
So, and I'd been estranged from my family for a good few years at this point. I hadn't really been in touch, and I've been wanting to get in touch. But I was like, oh, just wait till I've moved out of the family home. I've got settled, then I'm going to make contact with mum and dad. I want to get these bridges mended and, move forward. And that wasn't, well, it was to be, it has been. But my dad was not just poorly, he was terminally ill, but nobody knew that. And so 12 days after him being admitted to hospital because they weren't sure what was up, he was actually gone. So
sad.
I flew over there, and it's like a scene out of a movie, to be honest. I arrived on I think it was the Tuesday evening, and I went in and saw my dad, and he said one sentence to me. I didn't hear him speak again after that. I sat with him the next day when I went up, and then the next day I went up with my mum, and it's just me and my mum there, and he passed away. I went down to get a coffee, and he passed away while my mum was there. Perfect. Like, if you could ask it to be perfect, that for me was perfect for mum and for dad.
What, that your mum was there with him on her own?
Yeah, and it was
having that time.
Just them, yeah. It just felt like it'd been set up to be exactly like that. I went down to get coffee.
Right.
And when I came back, Dad had passed in that sort of 10 minutes.
How did it feel for you? How did it feel for you that you weren't there at that moment? Did that make any difference? Did it affect you? Because it would for a lot of people.
No, it felt right.
It felt right.
It felt absolutely right that mum was there with dad.
Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation with mum about some of the messages that dad had sent back and forth to some of his friends back in the UK about saying, life's too short. Don't stay at work for another 3 years to get a bigger pension. Just go, because he did stay to get a bigger pension, and he'd only been gone 8 months before he passed away. So there's a few things like that. Just really, I was like, do you know what? I'm not carrying on like this anymore. I'm sick of feeling like I was fighting life, feeling anxious and stressed, and I didn't know why. But my brain would start giving me a whole host of reasons why. So I think that happening with my dad triggered me into getting some help from my cousin's auntie, who's a 3 principals coach.
Is Debbie?
2 days down there, and my entire perception of life changed. My experience of life has changed ever since. Yeah, I have my ups and downs. Of course I do.
In what way? In what way your perception of life's changed? Because this is about this is something that I remember when I met you very early on, the 3 principles that you talked about. This was quite big, wasn't it? You were very, and still are, very much in tune with that way of looking at things.
Absolutely.
Can you explain it in a nutshell for people? Because I do feel that even though you do your own stuff now, right at the core of your work, somewhere in there, embedded in there, is some of the DNA from that whole three principle mindset.
Oh, completely.
Can you explain it? Can you explain what the three principles are, that DNA?
The three principles essentially are thought, mind, and consciousness. And
Thought, mind, and consciousness. Right. Okay.
and this is how we experience our life, because we only ever feel what we think about in the moment.
Right.
So when we're consciously aware of that, then we can have a real experience of the truth of what's happening right here, right now. When we live in our thoughts and we believe our thoughts, so for instance, I could be sat here worrying about driving my car home because it's snowing. And so I'd sit here feeling worried and anxious, but I'm not driving the car home because I'm sat here talking to you.
It's a bit like, so if I'm sitting watching, I mean, I don't watch them anymore, but I used to watch things like, well, all right, like something like Doctor Who, and I used to be terrified of the Daleks. And I used to think the Daleks, I know, and I used to think the Daleks were in the room, exterminate, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'd believe that they were really there. Even, I got so consumed into the TV set that I believed this film, this program, it was real. That happens to people in life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They get caught up in something that's not really real and they believe it is, and then everything changes in their life because of it.
Because they're acting and behaving as if that is real, because
right,
we have the feeling attached to it. So we go, I'm anxious driving in the snow. Where's your proof of that? You're not even driving in the snow.
So, well, I did skid in the snow before and crashed my car.
Yeah, but that was because you slammed the handbrake up, span the wheel. You're
no, it's not. It's not, though. But so take that as an example. So I'm nervous of driving in the snow.
Okay.
So that to me feels real because I've got an experience of driving in the snow and having an accident.
So what you've got is a memory feeling attachment to a memory of an experience you had. And so your subconscious mind, when you're coming towards that situation, says, remember that experience, because it's trying to warn you of danger.
Right, okay. That makes sense.
We can work through clearing that not being a danger anymore. So it's great. The mind gives us alarm bells, but sometimes the alarm bells aren't needed, and they hold us up from living the life that we want to live.
And that's it in a nutshell.
Well, yeah, it's probably one of my most favorite subjects. I love going into that and into more detail, because what it does is it makes us look at us and our reality.
Yeah.
Your reality is your reality, and my reality is my reality, and we're both right, we're both wrong.
Your book, you put a book out a few years ago called Think, Feel, Ride. You set up a program called Think, Feel, Ride based on those three principles, that your thought affects your feel, that affects your ride. Yeah.
That's exactly where Think, Feel, Ride came from. It was a bit like the missing piece. I remember when I went down, I spent the weekend, I was like, oh my goodness, this is what I've been looking for, to help everybody understand.
Well, yeah, from the horse world and the riding, of course.
Yeah, to be in the moment, to really feel and see what's actually happening.
Instead of what you think could happen or might be happening, or what happened in the past.
10 years ago. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I love it. And the book's out. It's available on Amazon, isn't it?
Oh, my Riding Forward book is, absolutely.
Yeah, which is based on the Think, Feel, Ride series, but it's the first book, isn't it?
Yes.
Leading on from your book, then there was this whole interest in your NLP, which you ended up becoming an NLP master.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amazing. So what's NLP?
Neuro-linguistic programming. So in basic
similar? Is it similar?
Yeah, in basic terms, it's about how we speak to ourselves.
Right.
It's what we believe about ourselves, and how we project ourselves. And there's so many different formulas and patterns and exercises we can go through to help us pinpoint certain scenarios and certain things that maybe are causing us a problem that we just can't shift.
Yeah.
So it's phenomenal. And when I really started to understand NLP and how the language that I use when I'm referring to myself or something that I'm doing, or something that I wish to do, being really careful of the words I use, because I'm talking to my subconscious and giving them instructions.
Reaffirming something. You could be reaffirming negatives, couldn't you?
You can, and the subconscious mind won't process the negative words. So, for instance, if I say, I don't want to be poor, my subconscious will hear, I want to be poor. Okay.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Because in that moment, you're trying to avoid you're trying to stop something that you don't want, instead of heading towards something that you do want. So it's like,
right. Okay. So we're stopping what we end up stopping what we do want.
Ultimately, because we're saying we're trying to stop happening the things that we don't want to happen, instead of trying to achieve the things we do want to happen. So it's a bit like when people are riding, they ride off their hands instead of riding forward with their leg.
Yeah, well, that's why it all ties in so nicely. That's amazing. And I know you worked really hard at your NLP side of understanding and your training, and it's been so powerful to helping people. And I really love the anchoring side of that. And I remember being on one of your courses and you did some anchoring with us, and I was terrified about riding. What was the anchoring all about? Because it's so helpful for people.
So the anchoring it's like a trigger point. So in very much the same way that if somebody, I don't know, if somebody has a negative feeling, so if somebody grabs you in the street to try and pull you over or whatever, you could, every time you feel a hand touch your shoulder, it can trigger your memory back to that place and you relive it.
Hi.
So, but in a controlled way, we can go into the subconscious mind and we can put good positive feelings to a trigger point. So some people use their earlobe, and we can, being in that hypnotic place where we go through a certain process, if you touch your earlobe, you'll go, oh, I feel really chilled. So when you start to go through, think, oh, flipping it wrong, going on stage and feeling anxious, oh, I feel relaxed. And so it will trigger the brain to go to that relaxed place.
Reprogramming the negatives out. Get out. You're not wanted. Yeah, that's it. More like, what was that? Oh, it was negative. Bye. Yeah, fantastic.
I absolutely love combining that with my understanding of the three principles, and sort of pulling that in for people to really be able to help take a clearer view of what's happening in their own mind for them, because it's their journey, not my journey.
Well, change comes from wanting to change, doesn't it? And that takes a lot of effort, but it's well worth it. And it seems to me in your life you've been through such a journey, and all of a sudden, from the whole NLP side of things and your understanding, you want to start getting your hands on people, Matt. What's that all about?
I actually qualified as a Bowen practitioner in 2005. It was actually one of my earlier qualifications and things that I trained in.
What is Bowen?
Bowen is a holistic, non-intrusive remedial therapy.
Hell of a long lot of words.
So basically what it does is it acts like a main reset button for the body. So if the body can heal itself, then it will. And we basically do a series of rolling moves over the muscle fascia, very similar to acupuncture, but I use my fingers and my thumbs in a really soft way. And it's just like giving that information to the body to crack on and heal itself.
Telling the brain to get to that place.
Yeah. And there's absolutely nothing, because I'm not treating conditions, I'm putting the therapy into the body for the body to do what it wishes with. There is nothing that somebody can come and say, I've got this issue or I've got this issue. Can you treat me? Yeah, I can treat you.
Well, it's an all-round service, Matt, because you're not only reprogramming the body, it would seem to me. You're reprogramming the brain as well. So I guess like it's just a full MOT overhaul to come to your couch.
I should have called it one-stop human shop or something, shouldn't I suppose?
Yeah. MOTs with Matt. I love it, Matt. It's so interesting. The bowing's so effective as well. And it always amazes me because obviously you do it with the horses as well to see the difference in the horses afterwards, where they're completely zoned out, licking and chewing, falling asleep. They're so relaxed afterwards. And I know that the people are as well. It's amazing to see. It really is. So we've talked a lot about what happened as a kid, how you found the animals, how you got to this place, and all these different areas that have all contributed to giving you the tools in your life. But there was one area that seemed to be missing that's kind of just gone, excuse me, sir, knocking on the door. Can I come in?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that? Wasn't Oliver Twist, was it?
No, it wasn't Oliver. He didn't have any more.
It was Spirit.
It was Spirit saying, "Come on, you've been on the wrong Spirit for a long time." I've got all Yorkshire now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and interestingly, actually, I had, in the past, Sarah Coppin had been out to see some of the horses on my yard. Sarah, sorry, Sarah. Anyway, and
everybody says that.
She actually rang me one day and said, "I've been to see 3 horses in the last 2 weeks that want to thank you for the work you did." And I was like, okay. And I've never been closed to anything like that, but I was like, okay.
I just delivered some hay. What did I do?
Yeah, I mucked you out. These were horses that had been in for reschooling.
Rehab. Yeah.
So that was sort of a first inkling, but I was so stuck in my own thinking and my own head and my own anxiety on a daily basis of woulda, shoulda, coulda, what if, blah, 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 at that point, that it wasn't gonna, I couldn't open up to allow that scenario or spirit in until I met you, of course.
Well, of course, and we'll talk lots about me in a minute, but the thing that I loved is the other thing that there was perhaps a barrier for you was, like you said, you grew up in quite a religious household. So whereas as a kid, for me, my mum would be like, "Come on, love, let's go down to the local spiritualist church and talk to some ghosts."
That
probably wasn't happening in your family.
No, it was all seen as Ouija board, the cult, danger, dodgy.
Yeah.
So like I didn't understand any of it. So
it took to meeting me.
So when I met you, obviously we had conversations about being spiritual and
I took you to a spiritualist church on one of our dates.
You did, and I was absolutely wetting myself in case.
You were frightened. You were worried. You were pale.
I was cacking it. I was like, "Please don't talk to me. Please don't single me out. Don't speak to me. Don't speak to me." So of course I was blocking everything on every possible angle.
Bingham Spiritualist Church, a wonderful, wonderful spiritual church just outside of Nottingham, Bingham. Yeah. 6 years ago, Matt. So, but even though it would have been bubbling under long before that, because I remember our conversations about your way of looking at spirituality when we first met, it was already there. But actually, it really started to come into play after we got together, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And it was like, obviously, we got together. Sarah came out to the yard. Sarah, you met Sarah. And then that sort of kick-started. You had a bit of a shove from Sarah and a bit of a shove from me to go on, get out. Of course you did.
Yeah, well, we were both so helpful to me. I mean, I talked about it in one of my interviews about how Sarah helped me and encouraged me, but you also were massive in encouraging me. And you were the one who was really pivotal to saying, just put something on Facebook and see what happens. And I was like, what? Yeah, and we did. And you recommended me to a couple of your clients. They came to me, had great experiences, and it just skyrocketed from there. You used to do the write-ups for me. You used to sit there quietly with your glasses on and you
I'm a little pinky out.
No, you used to come out with me and help me because I struggled so much, well, still do with my confidence. And so I'd ask you to come out with me and you'd come out with me and sit there and you'd do all the writing up, which I love.
And I hate writing, so that's
Yeah.
but it was being around you, just being around you, and you'd come out with things, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, how?" Like I know how, but I don't know how. Like it was just that how I believe it, but how
Can't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then and you talked to me about it all the time. Obviously, we were living together, so we were talking about it in different ways, and I was trying to understand it. And then you
suggested a call. You suggested the courses. It was you that said to me about, what about doing courses? I think you'd be really good at doing courses.
and I was right. You are really good at
Yeah.
doing it because I could see how amazing an experience people would have learning from you,
Right.
and the depth of spirituality and the understanding and everything that it makes you and how you can articulate that to people in a way that still blows my head off when you just come out with something and I'm like, how did you even put that together? But that's amazing. Like
Well, I'm
that.
just the vessel for spirit, aren't I? And I think that's what you've finally started to learn. We interpretate for the animals, and we're a vessel for spirit. That's what I always say to the students. Is what I said the same to you. That's what you learned as time went on. Come on, I mean, Matt, students come on my courses. Probably a lot of them do all the different courses once. Few of them come back a second time and do some of the courses. You had to be different and do every single course that I've ever done. Every single one of them.
In the last 5 years, online.
So you've accumulated what? About 100 certificates, 150 certificates.
I've got a book of them now. But you know what? Every single course
Yeah.
I develop, I learn something
Yeah.
new. And I'm so open to it. And my own confidence and belief, not belief, but it kind of is belief, like belief in myself. But like you say, it's being that open vessel. So it's really important that I can be understanding what I understand about the human mind so that I'm able to go, okay, I'm going to meditate, be in a place of peace. I am now a vessel. And then what comes, have the confidence to just blurt out what comes in.
Yeah. Trusting in it.
And trusting that that's not my own overthinking and my own head going on. And that's
been amazing. You've done amazing with it. You've been on all the courses. You're now helping teach some areas of the courses. You have done so much meditating, so much opening up to spirit, so much working with your spirit guides. It was only a matter of time before spirit was like, right, okay, so we'll put you out there now. Yeah. They'll have you, son. All right.
Yeah. And every time I go out to see a horse or a person or a dog, whenever I'm called upon to go and do spiritual work, I just feel so honored that I'm trusted by spirit to be able to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Matt. I think that's an amazing way of looking at it, that it's about you being trusted by spirit and chosen by spirit. You don't get to do this work on the level that I do or that you're doing to some extent now. You don't get that from just people trusting in you. This is about the bigger picture. This is about spirit trusting and believing in you and pushing you along. If spirit's involved, it all happens exactly just so perfectly. It's almost like us being together, there was so much more to the bigger picture. And part of that was this whole you finding your spirituality through us being together. And of course the things that I've learned, it's like a payoff, isn't it? Because you've learned more about your spirituality from knowing me. And I've learned more about my mind and my issues, my mental health issues that I've had in my life and how to deal with the trauma and the things that have happened to me. That your understandings that you brought to our relationship helped me so much as well.
It feels so normal now.
Yeah, it's natural.
Yeah, it's like just so normal for me to be stood and maybe see a figure or have an image come into my head or something to be able to share with somebody. It's as normal as, do you want a cup of tea, love? It's just normal.
You've had amazing communications, Matt. I mean, the reviews, what's going on for you, what people are saying. You're at what, Derby College? What's happening there in a couple of weeks?
I am hosting a animal mediumship evening.
And what's the date?
The 24th of March. All the details are on my Facebook page.
Wow.
So that's I feel excited and blessed and
Tickets?
Yeah.
Tickets available?
Yes, there's limited spaces because of the venue it's at,
Right.
which is great because it's my first one. And so yeah, people can get the tickets by contacting me from my Facebook page.
You've been doing card readings, you've been and done group readings at people's houses, mediumship, you do one-to-ones on Zoom, you do one-to-ones at Face now at Zen Holistics as well, along with your NLP, along with your mind coaching. Oh my goodness, Matt.
I like a variety. What can I say?
Yeah. Well, I know you do, and you know, they say men can't multitask, but you're not doing a bad job. You're not doing a bad job at all. It's absolutely fantastic. The spiritual side of things, watching you grow, has just been, well, it's very inspiring to see somebody grow at that on that level. Yes, you've had a good teacher, of course. I'm not going to,
actually,
but it's so, but jokes aside, so much more to it than that. You're just doing it, and you inspire and help so many people on my courses. Not just with the confidence workshops that I know people get so much out of, but the support you give them and the fact that they look at you and you talk so openly about your journey and how you started out, and it helps people to realize they can do it too. Because it's a big thing, Matt, isn't it? When I talk to people and they go, oh, and I say, well, I can't fit you in, but my husband, Matt, or I say Matt could, and they'll go, is he your husband? And I'm like, yeah. And you think to yourself, well, they're going to think to themselves, well, how's that possible? But this is the whole point of my courses. Everybody can do this work.
Yeah.
Can't they? Everybody's capable of it. If you show the passion and the desire, and you're coming from the right place with your spirituality, in other words, you're not coming from ego and greed. And we all have to take a few knocks on the head to just keep us in tone line with that at times. And none of us are, we're all there with it. Yeah, absolutely. But if you really persevere, spirit recognizes that and they go, okay, let me work with you. I'll help you. So everybody's capable of it. And I think you're a perfect candidate for proving that to people. And that's what they love about the courses. What do you love about the courses? What's the areas that you really love doing or being involved in?
Well, naturally, when I do the sort of my confidence workshop with people, absolutely love that. So the mediumship, but going in for like psychometry, I absolutely love psychometry.
Right. But that's on the advanced course that we work in, psychometry. So do you have a memory of doing the psychometry training with me?
Psychometry just amazes me. It excites me that I can touch an object and feel the same way as I do when I look at a picture.
Yeah, it's the energy, isn't it? This time you're not manifesting the energy, drawing the energy in from the photograph and the intentions in your mind to pull it in, but you're actually working with energy that resonates in something that belongs to the animal or person. Hannah talked about this last week in a lot of detail. So you remember doing that as part of the advanced course, because that's something that we do. What about colours? Picking up those old ribbons?
Colours have been really interesting.
Have they?
because, and it's probably still an area that I need to develop more in my real intricate understanding of what colours truly mean to me.
Right.
But I'm aware of what I feel about a colour when it comes near me, or when I see it. So I can respond to how I feel with that colour.
But you get it. You get why we work with colours and the animals, because
it's so powerful.
Animals show us colours all the time. And we all have feelings about colour. All of us have feelings about colour. We can pick any colour and we'll have a feeling about it. It may not be positive, it might be negative, it could be indifferent, but we definitely, for sure, have a feeling about colours. And if we have a feeling about something, then that is something the animals can use to show us how they're feeling.
Exactly. And this is where it's so important for us to be empty, clear mind, so that when we get that feeling, we know it's absolutely to do with that colour. And that's the feeling, and that's what they're, so you can sort of relay that then.
See, it all works hand in hand, doesn't it? Everything you're doing with the mind and the body, and so it's like mind, spirit, and body, which can only lead us to where you're sitting today. Right now.
My Zen Holistics treatment room.
So I know we've got to end in a minute, but just in a very brief way, tell us a bit about Zen Holistics.
So Zen Holistics, I rent the treatment room here at the Courtyard in Frolsworth. Currently just on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I offer sessions here for Bowen, Reiki, NLP, sort of working with our mind.
Because you're Reiki trained as well, aren't you? You're Reiki trained to heal people as well.
Yeah, so I that's really helpful, just to be more healing energy from me.
What wonderful thing.
So not from me, but through me.
How wonderful to be doing that. It must feel, I know you're in the very early days, but you've been packed out on your Wednesdays.
Yeah, and well,
there's somebody there now, lying there.
No, there's not. Treatment. Today has been only my second week, and my diary is already booked between. I start at 8 a.m. next week, and I don't finish till 4 at the moment. But I have.
It's amazing.
Still got another week of people that can book in. So,
doing what you really love.
Yeah, and all areas of what I really love.
Yeah.
Because I've always been the sort of person that gets bored doing one thing. And I like to be able to help everyone where I can. So if I'm like,
that's fantastic.
I can help you with that. I feel a bit like that woman off that program. I can do that.
Yeah, I know. It has felt like that in the past. And I'm sure some people have watched you on your journey and thought, goodness me, he's doing all these different things. But you know what? When you put it all together into a bag, it all plays a part. It's all different tools that make up a whole of who you're becoming, Matt. And it's just amazing to watch. It really is. I'm really proud of you. I really am.
Okay.
It's been wonderful talking to you, Matt. There is millions of things that we could have talked about, and we're already way over time.
Well, that's not a surprise with me, is it? Let's face it.
But people can access and find out about you from your Facebook page, which I'll put on the link below. You've also got a website, which I'll put below, and I'll put some information for Zen Holistics below as well. Some details about your book that they can find on Amazon, and details about your trip to Derbyshire. That's not Derby. Yeah, that's Cornwall.
Derby College, I should be at the Equestrian College.
Yes, absolutely. And you're going to carry on with your riding coaching, your confidence coaching people.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I enjoy doing that.
So worthwhile. It's so worthwhile. And it's helped me so much. Got me back on Legend. So Legend. It's wonderful, Matt. Matt, thank you so much. I was going to say to you, we'll catch up again soon, but you'll be back in a couple of hours for tea.
Yeah, I'm going to go talk the All-Star, but thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for including
your
series of interviews
You're very welcome. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to be on this episode. Everybody, this is episode 5 of Soul Talking, real people talking soul to soul about their lives and their journeys with spirit and the animals. And this week has been Matt Bryan, and next week we'll have another wonderful guest as well. So until then, I'll leave it with Matt. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank everybody. Bye. Bye.